The notice was neon orange, not a warning, not a letter, not a conversation, an auction date, stapled to the front door at 6:12 a.m. like a public execution. By 9 a.m., the entire neighborhood knew. Karen made sure of that. She stood at the curb in her navy blazer and pearls, smiling like she just won an award. Clipboard in hand, sunglasses oversized, voice loud enough for three houses down. Failure to pay HOA dues results in legal forfeiture, she announced, pretending to educate the crowd forming on the sidewalk. The homeowner, David, stood frozen on his porch. Mortgage paid, taxes current, no liens, no missed payments. Yet somehow, the HOA claimed he owed $18,240 in accumulated violations and penalties. Dead grass, unauthorized mailbox color, improper holiday lighting in February. The crowd whispered. Karen leaned closer to him and lowered her voice. You should have read the bylaws. Humiliation was the goal. Public dominance was the strategy. What she didn't expect? David wasn't arguing. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't begging. He simply looked at the auction notice and smiled. Not a nervous smile, a knowing one. Because the night before the notice appeared, someone had already warned him, and the paperwork Karen was waving around so confidently, it wasn't just aggressive. It wasn't just unethical. It was fake. By Saturday morning, it looked like a festival. A folding table sat at the edge of David's driveway, a cheap microphone, a printed banner that read HOA foreclosure auction. Karen stood front and center like she was hosting a charity gala. Neighbors gathered with coffee cups and phones out, some curious, some entertained, some uncomfortable. Karen tapped the mic. Per Section 8.4 of the community bylaws, we are executing our legal right to seize and auction this property. She said it slowly, confidently. David stepped out of the house in a calm gray suit. Not distressed, prepared. Karen smirked. Final chance to settle your debt. David tilted his head. What debt? She held up a thick packet of documents, stamped, signed, notarized, or so it appeared. The auctioneer began reading the opening bid, and that's when two black SUVs pulled up. Doors opened. Not police, not lawyers. A county recorder's office investigator and a real attorney. The investigator asked one question. Who filed this foreclosure claim? Karen raised her hand. Proudly. The investigator flipped open a folder. The lien number listed here doesn't exist in county records. Silence. The notary ID belongs to someone deceased. Murmurs spread through the crowd, and the HOA seal on this document hasn't been legally registered in 3 years. Karen's smile cracked. David adjusted his cufflinks. He finally spoke. You tried to auction a home using fabricated filings. He paused. And that's felony fraud. If this is already hitting, like, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Karen laughed. Too loud, too sharp. This is intimidation, she snapped. We have authority. But the investigator didn't flinch. He held up another document. This signature, he said calmly, belongs to a former HOA treasurer who resigned 18 months ago. The crowd shifted. Phones tilted closer. Karen grabbed the papers from the folding table and flipped through them fast, too fast. Pages shuffled, a staple ripped loose. Her hands weren't steady anymore. David remained still, watching. The attorney beside him finally stepped forward. For the record, she said clearly, we notified the county last night after discovering discrepancies in the lien filing. There is no recorded debt, no legal foreclosure authorization, and no board vote approving seizure. That word echoed. Seizure. A neighbor whispered, so this whole thing is fake? The investigator answered instead. Preliminary review suggests falsified documentation, abuse of authority, and potential financial misappropriation. Karen's face drained of color. Misappropriation? She repeated. David pulled a second folder from under his arm. He opened it slowly. Inside were copies of HOA financial statements, highlighted. Transfers. Late fees applied inconsistently. Legal expense reimbursements signed only by one person. Karen, David's voice was quiet now. You've been issuing penalties without board consent, then moving funds into a legal enforcement account you control. A gasp from the crowd. The investigator looked at Karen. Ma'am, we're going to need those original files. For the first time since sunrise. Karen looked small. Karen tried one last tactic. Victim mode. This is harassment, she said, voice trembling now. He's retaliating because he violated community standards. But the investigator had already called it in. Within minutes, another vehicle arrived, this one unmistakable. A uniformed officer stepped out. Not dramatic, not loud, just procedural, ma'am, he said calmly. We need you to come with us while we review the filings. The neighborhood that once feared her watched. No one stepped forward. No one defended her. The same neighbors she'd fined for improper garbage bin alignment were now recording her being escorted past the very folding table she set up. Her clipboard lay on the driveway. Auction banner half collapsed. David picked up the neon orange notice from his door. He turned it over. Blank on the back. Just intimidation. Nothing legal. His attorney addressed the small crowd. If an HOA operates outside recorded authority, every homeowner here should demand a forensic audit. That word spread faster than gossip. Audit. By Monday morning, 3 board members resigned. By Friday, a petition circulated, and by the end of the month, Karen's name wasn't on the HOA roster anymore, but it was in county records, under investigation. David never raised his voice. He just checked the paperwork, because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is assume no one will. If this opened your eyes, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from.